Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us today. In just a few minutes, we will get started, but first, I wanted to cover some housekeeping items for today's webinar. Everyone has been muted. If you have a question, please ask it in the question window of the GoToWebinar. We will try to get every question either individually or aloud during the Q&A session at the end. Once the presentation begins, sometimes people have issues seeing the slides advance. If this happens to you, just close the webinar and then rejoin. That usually fixes things. We are recording today's session and we will share the link with you after the webinar. It usually takes about a week for it to be available and posted to YouTube. We are ready to get started with today's session. Joining us today is Clara Perez, Senior Salesforce Developer. Over to you, Clara.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for joining this webinar. My name is Clara Perez, and I'll be walking through the slide and the demos that I have for you today. But before I do that, I need to present this forward-looking statement slide, which reminds you to make buying decisions based on what is currently available today in the platform and not all the cool features that are to come. So yes, this webinar is being recorded, and you can follow Salesforce in all their social media accounts, and feel free to leave questions in the comment. Or also you can use the Twitter handle at SalesforceDev or join the conversation using #LightningPlatform. So my name is Clara Perez. I'm a senior developer at GrapeWave. I'm also a Salesforce MVP. GrapeWave is an ISV and consulting partner for Salesforce. I've been working in the Lightning platform for over 7 years now, and there are two main things I love about Salesforce. One of them is the community that is built virtually 24/7. They're available to help you grow and to make sure you're successful. The second thing I like about Salesforce is how easily you can develop things on the platform. You can literally wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning, grab a brand new client, a brand new project, and have it deployed by 4 p.m. So that's why I'm a Salesforce fan. You can follow me in Twitter at Clapper87. So what's on the agenda for today? We're going to cover a lot of topics, both declarative and programmatic. And we're also going to see a couple demos of this feature and how to use them. And let me tell you that if you're new to the platform, the best place to start is at Trailhead. Trailhead is by far the most interactive and fun way to learn. So head over to trailhead.salesforce.com, create your free account, and blaze your trail to success. If you're a developer, check out the bit.ly welcome devs, and you'll find a great mix of trails that is under 4 hours, more or less, but it's a great content that is going to help you get started on all of the topics we are going to talk today. So what is the Lightning platform? That's a great question to start this webinar with. And I can honestly spend hours talking about what the platform is, but see, since I have a limited amount of time, let me tell you what the platform is not. The platform is not the place that you are going to spend hours and thousands of dollars implementing hardware infrastructure. You're not going to have to be slowed down trying to troubleshoot and secure business operation. And you are not going to have little or not time to develop your actual apps. The Lightning platform is actually a place you can focus on building what really matters, like your applications, your relationship with your customers, and ultimately your business. And you may be asking, how can you be so confident on that? Well, in my experience, Salesforce has trust and security as their core value. And that's why they invest millions on infrastructure and network services. They do the heavy lifting, caring for security services, data redundancy, identity, single sign-on. So you don't, and many other features, so you don't have to spend the time and the resources on them. That way you can be focused on building your business and having the tools and data that will make you successful at the tip of your fingers through a web browser or a mobile application. And that's a game changer to me. So if you are looking for a definition about what the platform is, the Lightning platform is a secure multi-tenant environment that allows you to create apps really fast for any department. So no matter how easy or complex your business process is, Salesforce helps you by taking away the heavy lifting and providing the tools for you to customize your app. For example, one of the key things we do when we create our apps is to build a place where we need to store our data. In Salesforce, we call this place objects. Out of the box, there are some objects that are included with Salesforce, like account, contacts, opportunities, and many more. These objects are called standard objects. But the platform also allows you to create your own objects to store data that is meaningful for your business processes. So I want to give you a quick demo right now. Today, we are going to be finishing a recruiting app inside of my developer org. First, I'm going to show you what the app looks like right now and how we're going to build on top of it during the webinar. So this is my developer org. It's a free edition that you can get to start trying things out. As you can see, I have created a HR recruiting app. Within this app, we have accounts. And those accounts may have positions related to them, open job positions. So let's take a look at the Salesforce admin. Each position has a name, the company that is hiring, a short description, a base salary, and a status. We also have contacts within our app. And the contact object stores our database of possible applicants for each open position. Now we need a way to connect a contact with their dream job. In some occasions, a single contact can have multiple positions or apply to multiple positions. In order to create this link, called a many-to-many relationship, we need a third object. Let me show you the schema builder. The schema builder is a tool that allows you to see all the objects in your Salesforce instance and how they relate to each other. In this view, I can see the account and contact object, as well as the position and applicant object. And let me give you a quick secret. If I toggle and this menu right here, I can toggle between the display name and the API names of both objects and field. Now I can see that the account and contact are standard objects. The position and applicant are custom object. How do I know? Because custom object, they have the _ C. I can also see the fields, right, underneath each of the objects. Let me toggle back to only showing the label. One of the things I can see here is the relationship between each object. The blue lines indicate that it's a lookup relationship, while the red line indicates that it's a master detail relationship. The difference between a lookup and a master detail relationship boils down to a couple things like ownership, security, and dependency. And also there are some features like roll-up summaries you can create on a master detail relationship and not on a lookup. But besides looking at your model, there are other things you can do, like extending them. For example, let's go ahead and create a new field. I go to the Elements panel, and this time I want to create a new master detail relationship. So I grab the master detail relationship element, and I'm going to drop it in the applicant. This is basically creating a new field on the applicant object, and I'm going to name it contact. The field name is automatically populated. I'm going to say that this is the link, or the relationship is going to be to the contact. The child relationship name is automatically populated, and I'm just going to go ahead and click Save. Now, notice how a red line is automatically added to the diagram, and I can actually see that the contact now have a relationship to an applicant record. Let's go ahead and create another type of field. Let's do a formula. A formula field is a field that gets its value from another field or calculation. In this case, I'm going to copy some code. It looks scary, but it's actually really simple. It's basing the value, so there's another field called rating on the object that has the value 1 through 5. If someone gets a 5 rating, 5 stars will appear on the record. Let's also put an M to this one and call it star rating. And specify that it's going to return a text. Okay, let's go ahead and save. And let's take a look at what we just created. So I'm going to go back to my instance here, and I'm going to click the Salesforce admin position. I'm going to go to the related list, and I want to create a new applicant. Let's say that Astro the admin wants, that's my contact, wants to apply to this Salesforce admin position at Acme Inc. And let's say that since he's a very good admin, he has a first rating of 5. Let's go ahead and save it. Let's check out the applicant record that was created. Good. It has all the information. But there's one thing that is missing. There are no stars showing, and we created a field for stars. So let me go ahead into the object and edit the page layout. The page layout is basically the display of the record. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to edit the page layout and add the field, the star rating field that we just created. Here it is, and I'm just going to drag and drop it right here. I'm going to save it. Let me go back to my record and refresh the screen. That's how easy it is to create new fields inside of Salesforce. Let's go ahead and look at the next slide. There are many features you can customize in Salesforce, but mostly they fit into 2 approaches. You can go declarative and use the power of your mouse to build on top of the platform, just like we were just doing right now, using point and click to create or extend the platform. Or you can also go programmatic and extend the platform using Apex, Visualforce, Lightning Components, and the APIs. We are going to see some examples of these later on. One of the tools you can use is the process builder. The process builder allows you to execute actions after a record is created or updated and meets certain criteria. You can also use a process builder in other scenarios. But for today, we're going to focus on when a record changes. Let's say that anytime an applicant is hired, in our recruiting app, there's a checkbox set to true. Wouldn't it be nice to have an automated process that changes the position status and furthermore updates the related contact, title, and account value? That's one of the things we can do with Process Builder. Let me go ahead and give you a quick demo on how to create a new Process Builder that meets our need. So what we actually want to do, we want to create a process that when this checkbox is clicked, the related position, which is this one, changes the status automatically from open to close. We also want to go into the contact that was hired and update the information of which account hired him or her and the title that he or she got hired to do. Let's go ahead and go to the Process Builder. For that, I'll go to the Setup menu. And I'll type in Process Builder in the Quick Find. And you get this screen. Let's create a new one. And let's name it Applicant processes. As I said before, you can start a process in several ways, but for now, we're going to focus on when a record changes. Okay, so the first thing you have to specify is the object you want to listen for changes and what type of changes you have to listen to. So for this one, I'm going to select applicant. This is the object I want to listen for. And I want to listen for when a record is either created or edited. I'll go ahead and click Save. Next, you specify the criteria node. Here is where you define when to execute as a set of actions. We name this is applicant hire. Okay, and then we specify the criteria or when we want the actions to happen. For this case, we are going to check if the hire for position was set to true. And one thing that you want to make sure you set is that only the actions are going to be made or executed when this condition is met, okay? When the changes actually apply to the record. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then I can specify the immediate actions. You have two types of actions. You can say actions that are going to happen right now at the moment, or schedule actions. Schedule actions allow you, for example, to send the contact an email within 3 days of being hired. That's one example. Let's go ahead and configure an immediate action. What I wanted to do is, first, I want to update the position, the related position, to close. So let's name it close position. I'll go ahead and choose this one, and then, okay, position applied to. And let me go ahead and choose that. And now I'm able to set the status, and I want to set the status to close. Let me go ahead and save that. I also want to change the related contacts title and company information. So for that, I'll select update records, and I'll call it update contacts. And this time I'm going to choose the contact right here. So I'm going to choose that, and then there's two things I want to do. I want to update the account ID, and I'm going to use a field reference, and I'm going to say that I want to obtain the position that applied. From the position applied to, I want to obtain who was the hiring company, and I want to obtain the ID or the account ID. Okay, so that's the difference, right? I can get from one record to the other related records. And I also want to update the title. So I'm going to find title and set to field reference, and then set it to, from the position applied to, I want to obtain the title, or actually the name. Sounds good. Good, I'm going to save that. And the last step, and is a very important step, is to activate the process builder. I'll go ahead and confirm that. And let's see what we just built. I'm going to go to my positions. I'll select the Salesforce admin, okay? And then I'm going to go to the applicant record. And I will go ahead and click this and set it to true. Oh, here we have the star ratings right here showing. Awesome. So I'm going to put this as true and save it. Great, let's see what actually happened. Let's go to the position applied, and let me refresh real quick. As you can see, the status changed automatically to close. If I go back to the applicant, I can see that Astro has now been hired hired for Acme, and his title is properly updated. As you can see, the process builder is a very powerful declarative tool that will allow you to extend the platform easily. And most of the time, you are going to do it without writing a single line of code. However, there will be times when you need to do a little bit more, and for those times, you'll have to write some code, like developing very complex customizations. This is where Apex comes into play. Apex is Salesforce programming languages, specifically designed for the platform. The cool thing about Apex is that it's very similar to Java or other object-oriented languages. But there are some few things that make Apex unique. Like, for example, governor limits, unit test coverage, and data structure awareness, among other things. We will go ahead and take a look into each of some of those differences. But I also want to give you a quick demo on how we manipulate records in Apex. There are several ways or places you can develop your Apex code. One of them is the developer console. Let's head over there. So I'm back in my Salesforce instance. I can click the wrench icon and open up the developer console. Let me navigate there. So the developer console is a feature-rich tool that allows you to do multiple things, not only writing code. One of the things you can do, for example, is that you can execute a SQL query on the fly. So for example, I could say select ID, name from account, and let's put a limit. And I click execute. And I will go ahead and see all the records that the SQL query just pulled. Another thing you can do is to use the anonymous window to execute a script on the fly. So I have Assistant Debug here. This is the anonymous window. It's not anonymous because we don't know who you are. It's anonymous because the code that you write here does not get saved. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just click execute. The last thing I want to show you that you also can do is to look at the log. The logs is a place where all of your backend processes are logged. So every time a trigger execute, every time a Lightning component opens, or you run a code in the anonymous window, it's going to create a log. This is the general format, but you can also filter. I'm just going to show me the debug logs, and here is my debug that I just created. But back to our scenario, one of the main things you can do in the developer console is to create components. And in this case, I want to create a new Apex class. And I'm going to call it application controller or applicant controller. And just to make sure I don't do any typos, I'm just going to copy and paste some code and explain it to you really quickly. So this is the applicant controller class. As you can see, I set it as public. And we only have, this is a very simple class, we only have one method. The method is called get top 10 applicants. Let me go through some of the things right here. The outer enable annotation, we have many other annotations, but this annotation in specific allows this method, the get top 10 applicant method, to be callable or to be used in Lightning components. In line 8, we have a SQL query statement. SQL is the query language of the platform, and it's very similar to SQL, but it has a couple of things that varies. One of the things that you can see is that Apex is aware of the object. So we don't have to specify a database connection. I can simply use my object right out of the box. And then we're just returning the list of records we just queried. I'll go ahead and save this. And that's how easy it is to create an Apex class in Salesforce. One of the cool things is that you get this automatic database awareness when you use Apex. And other things that make Apex unique are, for example, the governor limits. And most of the governor limits are going to enforce you or stop you from abusing the platform. So, for example, you're not going to be able to make a lot of DMLs or subquals in a single transaction. And finally, you have unit testing. Unit testing requires that you have overall 70% of code coverage in your classes and triggers in order to be deployed to production. So another of the things you can do in the platform is updating the user interfaces. And for this, I want to give you a quick demo of how to create a Lightning component. Lightning components are based of a component framework that acts as the middle layer between what the user sees and how the users interact with the UI. So in the front side, you're going to have Lightning tags and the Aura framework and JavaScript. And on the server side, you are going to use Apex. Let's go ahead and create a simple Lightning components because I just want to give you a quick snapshot or demo on how to create them. I'll go back to my org, and I'm going to use the developer console to create this component. I'll go into files, I'll create a new, and this time I'm going to select Lightning component. I'm going to call it top 10 applicants. And I'm going to select that this Lightning component is going to be usable in the Lightning record page. I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. When a Lightning component is created, it also creates 8 resource files that you can see right here. Each of these files have different purposes. Today, we're only going to focus on the first 2. The component resource, which is the component that we have open right now, is where you define the view of the component using Lightning tags or HTML tags. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste some code again. Just 1 second. And I'm going to walk you through this code. On line 1, we define a component attribute. We'll tell the component which Apex class to use with the controller attribute. We are going to implement some of the interfaces. So as you can see, this is the controller attribute, and with the implement attribute, you can tell them which interfaces you want the component to implement. The first one enables the component to be used on a record page, and the second one, the has record ID, provides the ID of the record in context. Next, we define attributes, okay? And these attributes are very similar to variables in your Apex classes. We also have the force record tag that uses the Lightning data service to load a record in memory. And then right here, all of this code is just basically the view of the component. You have a UL tag, you have an auto iteration. It's just the face of the component itself, okay? There is one interesting tag that I want to point out, which is the auto handler, okay? In the auto handler, in this case, we're just using it to define the first function that gets called when the component is fully loaded. In this case, this action or function is called the doInit. This function will be defined in the controller resource right here. Let me go ahead and quickly paste the code for this and also walk you through it. So right here, we define the doInit method. This is the first function that is going to be executed. And what we're doing a couple things here. We're basically creating an action saying, hey, remember the controller, AKA or Apex class? The controller has a method called getTop10applicants. I want to use that method. Next, we obtain the record in context and set it as a parameter of that function. If you remember, this is our class or controller. This is the method we're calling, and it accepts a parameter. So basically, we're just passing the position ID. Then we set a callback, okay? And the callback is the code that gets executed when the Apex controller returns or completes the action. And finally, we have the enqueue. The enqueue action is to put our method execution in the queue to be executed. Let me go ahead and save all these files. And that's how easy it is to create a component. So we've created an Apex class. We created a Lightning component. What's next? The question is, where can I see the component you just created? So we can now use the Lightning App Builder to extend our pages. And this is a cool feature because it's a drag and drop tool that you can use. Let me just go ahead and give you a real quick demo. It's going to take literally like 30 seconds, but I'm going to go ahead and go to the position record. In this case, the Salesforce admin. And I want to click the wrench icon right here and edit this page. Now, one important thing is that you can create your Lightning components, but in order to use them, there's two things that need to happen. Number one, and most important, you have to have my domain active. I also suggest you to go to the help and training and Trailhead to know more about the my domain. But I have it active, and I can see here that under custom, I have my top 10 applicant component. And I can just drag and drop this component over to the page right here, and it's going to show the information. Let me go ahead and click Save. I will say yes, I want to activate this. Actually, let me go back and do it another way, because the component we just created is for the applicant, is getting the top 10 applicants. So yes, what I'm going to do is go ahead and edit the page and add the component. I'll click Save. I'll say yes, activate it. I wanted to set it as the org default and click Save, and then go back. Okay, so now my component is displaying. What I want to see are the applicants related to the position. So I'm going to make sure that there's a couple applicants right here. Let's put another one. And let's make sure that everything's saved correctly. Sometimes it happens that the platform, due to cache, it doesn't refresh right on top. But as you can see, now the information just refreshed, and I'm at the position, looking at our position, and I can see my component showing all the information, the icon, the name, and the rating. Cool. We can also extend this application more and the component more by doing other type of actions, but I'll leave you that as a homework. Okay, so before we go into Q&A, I wanted to spend 2 minutes briefly talking about the ways you can extend through APIs. Salesforce offers you several ways to reach out other platforms and services, as well as to let them reach into Salesforce. For example, Salesforce have their standard REST and SOAP API, as well as the mobile SDK to build more apps. And also, you have the platform events for your IoT projects and push notifications. You can also use a combination of Heroku and other programming languages, different programming languages to create your app outside Salesforce, and then use Canvas and Heroku Connect to show them inside of Salesforce. So where do you go from here? That's a great question. We've covered a lot of ground today. Let me point you out a few resources that will make your starting point even easier. The Dreamhouse app is a very robust app created to guide you through many declarative and functionality and programmatic features of the platform. So go over there and take a tour of the app so you can see what you can build on Salesforce. You can also visit the App Exchange to get a sense of what other people and companies are building in the platform. You'll get some paid tools and free tools, but this is a nice place to see what else is being created on the platform. And of course, you have the Trailblazer community that is 24/7 there to support you and help you grow, answer your questions, give you great ideas. And finally, you have Trailhead. Trailhead is going to help you with hands-on challenges. You'll get badges. There are tutorials. There are so many cool things on Trailhead you can see. And with that, let's go into the Q&A time.
Thank you, Clara. We have a lot of great questions. So the first one is process builders similar to triggers?
Yes, they are, and they are not at the same time. There are some differences. For example, process builder are executed after a record is changed or created, okay? With triggers, you have a lot more of flexibility because you can execute your code before a record is created or before a record is updated. You can also do other things like executing code when a record is deleted, and that's something that you cannot do with process builder.
Great. The next one is, can I put my code in a Git repo, GitHub, and pull it from Apex? If not, does Apex support version control?
At the moment, version control is not supported, but I know that Salesforce has the Scratch environments that is very similar to version control. So you can use the developer DX experience that is very similar to version control. But to answer your question, you can host your code in GitHub, but in order to execute the code, it has to live within Salesforce, okay?
Great. Can we use two objects in a single object query as a reference?
Yes, you can. You actually can do, we call them inner queries. Let me quickly show you, for example. If I go to my developer console and go to the query editor, I'm able to say, well, I want to select the ID and name, but I also want to select the ID from all the contacts related to the account. So if I execute this query, I'll see that I have the ID and name of the account, but I also see the IDs, because I wanted just the IDs, of all the related contacts. So yes, you can use multiple, to an extent, you can use multiple SQLs, objects in a SQL.
Wonderful. The next question is, what are the different events we can handle in Lightning Component?
What are the different events? There's too many. There's too many to talk them through. I would suggest you to go through the help and training documentation. But for example, at the component level, you can handle clicks, you can handle on key press, on focus, on blur. There's so many here, but you can also create your own types of events. We have something called lightning event right here, lightning event, and you can have either an application event or you can also have a component event.
The next question, what is the quickest way to tell if you can use a schema builder or if you need to write custom code?
Well, a schema, that's an interesting question because they don't relate to each other. If you have to write code, you have to use the developer console or another IDE. If you need to alter your objects, that's like creating a new object or a new field, you can use the schema builder or the inline browser to create the objects, but you cannot create an object using Apex code.
Thank you. And when should we use a workflow?
Never. Just kidding. Actually, yeah, workflows are still there. I wouldn't advise you to use them. I would actually advise you to go with Process Builder because it's much robust feature. However, there is one scenario that you should be able to use workflows, and is when you want to send an outbound message to a SOAP service. That's the only place that I'll use a workflow instead of a process builder.
Great. Here's a good question. How much experience in coding is necessary if used to build the automation process?
If you're going to use Process Builder, 0 experience in coding. As you can see, as you saw from the demo, I went through all the configuration just using my point and click. However, for complex things, you have to have, let's say, at least 1 year of experience. It really depends, right? Because how can you measure experience? I would say that if you're good in Java or any object-oriented programming language, you'll be just fine in Apex. Just be aware of how Apex is unique, like the governor limits and other things, and you'll be just fine.
Another question came in asking, why do we need visual force page to call Lightning component?
We don't need them. I mean, we just created we created a Lightning component, and we were able to use that component without creating a visual force page. We just placed the Lightning component inside a Lightning page. Okay. We could, however, create a visual force and call the Lightning component, but it's not required. The relationship of visual force and Lightning component is not required.
And can you tell a real-life scenario where you used Process Builder?
Sure, every day, pretty much, or every week. So, for example, in my job, we were working on a requirement where we needed to know if a child record was updated. We needed to put the last modified information into the account. So let's say I have Acme account, and now I have Astro as a contact. If I modify the contact, for some reason, I needed to show the modification date of the contact on the account level. So we just use Process Builder for that.
Great. What about the existing workflows if we decide to migrate Classic to Lightning Framework?
That's a good question. If you decide to, I don't know why would you migrate backwards from Lightning to Classic, but if you have a lot of Lightning components and elements like that, you can use Lightning out in your Visual Force pages, to expose the Lightning components.
And can we call Lightning components from list view button?
Yes, you actually can, because one of the features you can do is create quick actions. So I'm going to go into the object real quick. Let me show you. And you have buttons, link, and action. You can create a new action. And from here, you can say the action type to actually be a Lightning component, right? And then you select the Lightning component, this and that. And you put that into your related view list, and then you just click the button. So you'll do it with quick actions.
Do APAC support update and delete query?
Well, they are not queries, they are actions, right? Because, for example, and let me quickly show you, one of the things I can do, I'm going to execute a script. And one of the things I can do is, this is the delete DML action, and I'm going to do a query to delete the ID from applicant. So if I went ahead and run this query, the query is going to get me the applicants, and then the delete action is going to effect on them and delete them.
Oh, great. Next question, can we use Process Builder for cross-functionality between apps?
That's also an interesting question. If by apps you mean different process builders, so you have one process builder and then you need to call another process builder, then yes. Or you have a visual workflow and you need to call the visual workflow from the process builder, yes, you can do that. But if you have different apps in the sense that you have your app in Salesforce and then you have an app in SAP, you cannot use Process Builder to connect them together alone. Okay.
Our next question is asking what Trailhead module would be best to further learn app building?
I would suggest you to actually go to the developer trail mix if you're a developer and you're interested about learning to code, Apex, and Visual Force, Lightning component. If you're an admin, there is an admin trail mix that is going to get you up to speed.
Great. And we have someone asking for a sample, show an example of quick actions only available in detailed page button, not list view button.
Okay, I'll have to follow up with you because that would require me to do a couple of things in there, especially if it's for a Lightning component, because I will have to create a Lightning component that is supported by quick action. The first step I'll have to do is create a Lightning component, and then I'll have to select available for quick action. So it's going to take a little bit of time to give you that demo, so I'll have to follow up.
Great. And it looks like we just have a couple more minutes for some questions. Let's see. Should we go to the VF page versus Lightning component? Visual Force?
Yeah, Visual Force. It depends on your business requirement. I would suggest you, since the whole platform is betting on Lightning components and the Lightning experience, just if you have the resources and your requirements allows it, just go ahead and do it in Lightning, because you can do more with Lightning. You can reuse the components. So my advice would be just go ahead and deep dive with Lightning. And if not, then sure, use Visual Force.
Great. And the next question is, can we update child records through Process Builder?
Yes, we can. So let me quickly show you. That's one of the features I really like about Process Builder. So for example, if I go to Setup and navigate to the process builder itself. I'll go to this one and I'll clone it so I can edit. If I were to create an action, I could say, well, I want to update records. And let's call it test. And one of the things I can do is records related to the applicant, but then I want to update records related to the, what it is, position applied to. And then I want to say, well, hiring company, contacts, see? So right now, all the contacts, the related list contacts on their account, I can update those records. So yes.
Wonderful. And I have one more question for you before we end. Can you embed a Lightning component in Visualforce?
Yes, you can. You have the Lightning out tag, and you can use it. So you'll basically load in memory the Lightning component and pass any attributes using the tag, and then just place the tag within the Visualforce page, and you should be good to go.
Wonderful. I had one more comment about the child question. Can we update multiple level of child through Process Builder?
I'll have to follow up with you because I don't want to lie to you. I really don't know the answer. Out of the top of my head, I would say no because I haven't had the experience on that. But maybe, yeah, you can do it. So I'll have to follow up on that.
Well, Clara, thank you very much. And thank you everyone who attended. Like we said earlier, we'll be getting the recording out within the next couple of weeks. And thank you again.